Hi, I'm Charles Purcell, and this is the Daily Log for Wednesday, April 22nd. A couple of corrections from yesterday's shoe. I was talking about my gratitude for the 67% of Americans who are not insane. They agree that the whole stay-at-home thing is the right thing to do, and they are more concerned with quote-unquote reopening too early than they are concerned with their own little inconveniences, not being able to get their hair cut. Well, my correction is, maybe not so much a correction as an update. On the local news last night, they cited a poll that said that's 71% of Americans polled fit that category. Reasonable, rational people, more concerned about opening early than they are concerned with government overreach or their right to die if they want to. Everybody should go back to work so I can get my nails done. So, 71%. That was good news for me. I was happy to hear that. And then the other correction is just a small one. I mentioned Yamiche Alcindor. I'm a fan of hers. Of course, she is the White House correspondent for PBS NewsHour. And when I cited her yesterday, I identified her as a reporter for NPR. So, small correction there. Yamiche Alcindor, PBS NewsHour. Oh, speaking of PBS Frontline, which I recommend often. Hit it out of the park again last night. What a great documentary series that is. This episode entitled A Tale of Two Washingtons. They start in Washington State, the Seattle area, where patient one for the coronavirus in America was treated and recovered, thankfully. But yeah, the Seattle area was the first introduction to the virus and the first hot spot. And so the producers of Frontline start there. And then in a 1-hour documentary, I've never seen anybody do it quite like Frontline can do it. They do it really well. They cover the story of coronavirus in America from the beginning to today. And of course, Tale of Two Washingtons refers to Washington, D.C. as the other Washington. And so they toggle back and forth between what the doctors and researchers were finding out and how they were trying to deal with it, and then how the federal government responded, how the states responded. So it's a great wrap-up and catch-up to where we are. It's tough to keep up with the news. It's difficult on a daily basis. There's fatigue that sets in, certainly. So I highly recommend this. It's easy to find, PBS Frontline. Just click to it. If I haven't already, I don't remember if I did. I'll share the link on my Facebook page. So the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development finally has their website set up to accept unemployment benefits applications for gig workers. We've been talking about this, of course, thanks to Bernie Sanders and the Democrats in Washington. That was a provision in the bill a few weeks ago. And it took the states a while. I'm not sure how quickly they all rolled it out. But Wisconsin finally got it figured out. And now, if you are a gig worker, you were not eligible prior to this. But now you are. Unemployment benefits. So do that. And I did that yesterday. And oh my goodness. Kind of confusing right off the bat. I like to think I'm a smart guy, but I don't know. When it comes to things like this, part of my brain just shuts down. Right off the bat, there are 3 different categories. I got to figure out which one applies to me. And immediately I started thinking of a lot of folks I know really have a difficult time faced with that situation. Just with this computer screen in front of you, all these words to figure out. Make sure you're in the right place and fill it. And okay, so I'm going through this thing, and I find a couple items pretty disturbing. One, it says I may be eligible for that extra $600 that Bernie put in the bill. I may be. What do you mean I may be? Some people aren't. And there again, you got to jump through hoops, and you got to see if you qualify. And I don't even know what the parameters are on that. So I finally figure out which of the 3 boxes applies to me. First, I went to the $600 box because I thought, okay, well, they need more information from me on this. And then they just shot me back. They said, well, okay, if you qualify, this will be automatic. Oh, okay, you decide if I qualify. All right, so they shoot me back. I go to the other box. That's the one for gig workers and self-employed. All right, good, I'm in. And, you know, the way bureaucrats write their language, they're doing their best. I know they're doing their best. But it's not easy. And again, I thought of the people who really, we've talked about this before. If you're a certain level of competent, there are people above you and there are people below you, right? I mean, I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not the most competent guy in the world. I don't go to the very top of that list. And I think I don't go to the very bottom of that list. I'm not the most incompetent person in the world. I'm not the stupidest person in the world. So I'm not at the bottom. I'm somewhere in between. And I couldn't help thinking about the people who are below me on that spectrum. They must be having a hell of a time with this. It's because it was kind of confusing me a little bit. And so I really kind of put on my work shoes, right? And I buckled down. And I turned off the radio and the television, make sure I was focused in. I had nothing else. And I read. Okay, I got to understand this. And I find right away that it looks like they want my 2019 taxes. It's not required, but if you don't have tax verification, and again, this is for gig workers and self-employed, okay, now you have to substantiate all of your income. Every single person you worked for, every entity you worked for, their name, their address, their email, their phone number, you got to give them everything. When you worked for them, how much you got paid. And then they go back and check out those people to see if they're liable for any reporting. So in other words, myself as a gig worker, I'm a musician, I sing, I play guitar, and then I also host pub trivia as a little sidelight to supplement my income. So I've got a lot of people I work for in the course of 18 months. Yeah, they want 18 months. They want 18 months of this. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I have no choice. I can't do that. I can't provide all that information. That's just too much. I mean, I keep records, but come on. And then I don't know how long it's going to take them then to go back to all the people on my list for their little verification. Talk about hoops. So it looks like the only thing I can do here is I got to file my 2019 taxes, which I haven't done yet. They extended the deadline to July 15th. I thought, okay, well, just take that off my plate. There are other things to worry about right now. So, okay, well, I better file my taxes. Now, I've got a guy who files my taxes because, again, I'm in the middle of that spectrum. I'm not the dumbest guy in the world. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm somewhere in that range, and I can't do my own taxes. I've tried. But, all right, I figure, what the hell? I'll just do it quick and dirty this year. I'll just go to the IRS site. They'll just shoot me over to TurboTax, the free version. I'll just bing, bang, boom. I'll just do it. And I don't care so much about if I pay a little extra. Who cares at this point? It's all just monopoly money at this point anyway. And I tried to do my taxes online. And, it was just, I failed. I just failed. I just could not get through it. And they wouldn't let me out. I kept just going, okay, next on every page. They wanted to say, okay, let's look for your deductions here. I don't care. Next. I swear to God, they wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me out. And then they said, "Oh, you qualify for this this homestead thing. You know about that, renters. So you need to get your rent certificate signed by your landlord." Well, how the hell am I going to do that? We don't hang out, you know? So now I got to figure out, I got to call my landlord. Can I send this to her electronically, and can she sign it and then forward it on to me or to my tax guy? And it just went on and on with things like this. It just went on and on. So finally I gave up. I just gave up. I gave up. And I called my tax guy and said, look, Wisconsin unemployment really needs to have my 2019 taxes. Could you do them in a rush for me? Could you give me a little rush job? He got right back to me. He emailed me right back. He said, well, sure, what the hell? I'm not doing anything. I'm not going anywhere. He was happy to do it. So I'm going to run my taxes. I'm going to run my information over to him today, right after I talk to you guys. And he's going to do a little rush job and get my taxes in, and then I can do my unemployment. And oh, mercy, Lord Jesus. Oh. And then on top of that, to share some personal good news with you, I got an email yesterday from a job I had applied for. Now, I haven't applied for a job in years. I'm a gig worker. I'm a freelancer. I'm a musician. I'm an entertainer. I do this. I talk to you guys on the radio and in the podcast. But of course, for many, many, many years, I worked in radio. And a couple of weeks ago, as though the clouds just opened up and God shone that, stream of light down on me, I'm thinking, all right, so what does the future hold for me here? I don't know when, if ever, I'm going to go back to work as a musician or as a guy who cracks wise in bars and restaurants. We're going to have venues that never open again, or when they do open, it's the social distancing and what is my future? Well, and then right at that moment, God shines down, and I hear on the radio, "Oh, we have an opening for a job." That just, it suited me perfectly. It was exactly the kind of work I did for years, producing and hosting and interviewing. And okay, well, great. Well, all right, I'll apply. Oh, the deadline is tomorrow? Great, okay. So again, the timing was just kind of otherworldly. It was really pretty amazing. And I sat down, and again, the online application for a job. Have you done this recently? Oh, man. Step by step, the requirements, do this, do that, and share this document and that document, and then give me links. And now, because it's a radio job now, you got to give me your samples of you interviews and things like that, your radio work. So there again, not the dumbest guy in the world, not the smartest guy in the world, somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. And I get it done. I get it done without too much trouble. I'm a lucky guy. I've got a computer that works. I'm high enough on that spectrum. I can negotiate this thing. I can figure it out. I've got a website. I've got audio samples I can send them links to. And again, I'm thinking about the people below me on the spectrum who are not quite as adept at this thing. People who maybe don't have easy, quick links to their samples, if they have any. And I can't help but think of, oh my God, the privilege. I am so aware of my privilege these days. Even though life is kind of hard in some areas, I am the luckiest guy in the world. My privilege is just through the roof. And I'm just thinking about these poor schmucks out there who don't have the privilege that I have. So if I get this job, I'm going to feel happy and guilty and yeah. And my wondering expanded to everyone in their own situations. Everybody's got their own situation, right? I understand that. But I wonder, are other people experiencing this? They must be. This, whatever this is for you, this very weird life we're all living right now. I wonder if it's teaching empathy. The whole, walk a mile in the other guy's shoes thing. Because many people right now, for the very, very first time in their lives, they're going through this experience of filing for unemployment and all the hoops and frustrations that go along with that. I've always heard that, they make this complicated on purpose. They make any kind of services, food stamps, SNAP, Medicaid, any kind of assistance, energy assistance, unemployment benefits, anything that you're trying to get, they make it difficult on purpose in order to discourage you from even applying or to get you to give up in the middle of the process. They don't want to give you the money. It's a battle between you and them. You need it, they have it, but they only want to give so much, and they've got tight budgets, and they've got, And so the people who write these laws and write these mechanisms, who create these mechanisms, make it difficult on purpose. Now, I never believed that. How cynical can you be that you believe that? But it's not cynicism anymore. I think it's just experience that has taught me, yeah, I think that's probably true. I'm going to have to agree with you on this. So, yeah, people for the very first time in their lives, you've seen these pictures on television, these long lines, people in their cars stretching for miles, sitting in their car for literally hours to get a bag of free food. We haven't seen pictures like this since the 1930s. This is crazy. So I wonder if people are gaining empathy, establishing a new empathy muscle for the people who go through this, even in the best of times. As you and I have talked about before, in the very best of times, there are thousands, millions of people around the world and right here in this country who face this reality every day. They don't have enough food. They can't find a job. They got kids they're trying to take care of. Somebody in the family is sick. They don't have adequate health insurance or any health insurance. They really wonder where their next dollar is coming from, where their next meal is coming from. There are people in this situation every single day, even during the very best of times. And the rest of us just go happily along with our lives and never really give them a thought. Well, now many of us are in their situation. So will we develop empathy? Because it really is, man. It's a full-time job to be poor. I've had a couple of transition times in my life before this. A couple of times when I was younger, and then one other time later, I got laid off, and it took me a while to find another job. And yeah, it's a full-time job to be poor, to stand in these long lines, to fill out the forms, to figure out the red tape for any of this kind of thing, the SNAP program, a food bank, and it's degrading. You always have to prove that you're poor. You have to document it. They run you through this like I experienced with the unemployment site yesterday. You got to prove everything you're telling me. You can't just walk in here and tell me you need food. No. You got to document this. Energy assistance. Yeah, it's there. You can get it. But you got to sit in a room with 200 other people for the better part of a full day. Now, to their credit, again, I don't want to blame the bureaucrats necessarily. These are people trying to do their best. All right? So don't think for a second that I'm criticizing the woman who signs me in, and then the other person who kind of herds everybody, and then the other people sitting in their cubicles, and you take your turn to go talk to them and bring them your forms. Everybody's in the same boat. I'm talking about the people who design it. I don't know. They're probably doing their best too. The blame isn't the point. All right? Everybody's doing their best. The point of this is not blame. The point of this is it's really tough. It's really, really tough to be poor and to try to get any help, to try to get those benefits. So I really wonder if empathy is being created in this situation. I hope it is. I hope it is, because now we're going through this. A lot of people. We're figuring out unemployment benefits. We're standing in line for free food. We're fearful that we're not going to get the help we need, and we don't know. We're terrified, some of us. Again, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I know it. I know it. I know it. I'm figuring this out, and I hope you're doing well. But you know what I'm saying is true. People are suffering. People who've never suffered before. And again, going back to the old world, to the pre-virus world, this is also something you and I have talked about. There were two kinds of people. People who get it and people who don't. I won't name his name again. You can look it up if you want to. You know the guy I talked about recently? He made the news on St. Patrick's Day because he opened up his place of business against the governor's orders. Cops came, news media came. And he's kind of a Trump guy, and he's all about freedom, and he's very conservative politically and all that. I bring him up not to jump on him, but just because he's such a perfect example of many people I've met. He's like the quintessential guy. Now, he is the nicest guy in the world. He has got a heart of gold. He loves his clients. He loves his family. He loves the whole community that he's able to build through his bar and restaurant. He's got a nice stage, and he's very supportive of musicians, and he promotes them, and he brings them, and he's the greatest guy in the world. And he's the first guy. He's the first guy in line to open up his place of business for some big charity concert. Some kid has cancer, and they're having a big fundraiser, and he's the first guy to welcome in those people, have a big benefit party, raise a whole bunch of money, promote it. I know this guy, and he's the nicest guy in the world. With what we're facing right now, that kind of thing doesn't work. That kind of attitude doesn't work. Yes, it's great that people are having sewing parties and sewing masks. But there are times when only the immense force of all of us together collectively, and I mean all of us, and that means the president, the governors, our representatives in Congress, that's the way we can get things done. And I mean really get things done. I'm talking nuts and bolts now. Again, go back to that documentary from last night. Watch PBS Frontline. Supply channels, all the things we've been hearing about. The Defense Production Act, getting people on board, getting people coordinated, getting help to where it's needed. All the kinds of things they brag about in the daily pressers, if they were actually true. Most of what they're telling us is lies, but what they're describing is what we need. Oh, we've got so many million masks going here, and another million going there, and we got everybody on board. Of course, it's all a lie, but they're describing what we need. And so these two types of people, this political spectrum, this political divide that we've got, on one side, you can be the nicest guy in the world, but it's all about private enterprise. It's all about private charity. And that just ain't gonna get it done. It's like Ellen DeGeneres giving everybody in her audience a trip to Hawaii. Oh, wonderful. Great. What does that do for the rest of us? Yeah, help the kid with cancer. I'm not saying don't do that. It's wonderful. But then don't use that as your defining political philosophy. That's the only way you can do things. Because the fact is, the only way we can fight this virus is through collective action through our democratic government. That's the only way it's going to happen. And some of us are just going to have to bite the bullet and accept that. And again, I talk about going back to pre-virus days, when there are thousands or millions of people facing these kinds of hardships. You might firmly believe in your heart, well, if only every community got together, private businesses and private charities and individuals got together to help these folks, and churches, well, then problem solved. That's a fantasy world. People suffer from hunger and unemployment and lack of opportunity and lack of education and lack of health care for large structural systemic reasons. That's the part you can't accept. That's the part up till now I haven't been able to convince you of. Institutions, structures, systems, infrastructure, policy, Oh, but big government, big government. Yeah, there's a fear of big government. Believe me, from a lefty perspective, I don't want big government in the sense you're talking about it. I don't want tyranny. I don't want authoritarianism. There's no need to fear big government if government is democratic. That's the fight. There's your fight right there. If you really want to help people, not only little Jimmy who has cancer and you know his dad from playing golf, and so you have a benefit, great. But what about the other 1,000 kids who have cancer? Well, you don't know their dad. You don't play golf with their dad. So public health services, well-funded, well-coordinated, are necessary. Oh, but big government. You can't fear big government. There's no need to fear big government if that government is democratic. Now, you might make the case, and I totally agree with you, our current government has some problems with that. But we can fix that. That's something within our power. Then there's still plenty of room for your individuality. It's the whole, if you really go to the bottom line of this whole thing, that's the divide, right? That's the big divide between us. Those who see us as individuals and those who see us as a community. And the people on the individual side of the spectrum, that includes their family, that includes their friends, that includes people they know. But the larger community, they don't recognize that. Just work hard, do your best, and you'll succeed like I did. You want to deny structural racism, institutional poverty. You deny those things. And then as an individual, then you don't recognize how your own individual lifestyle, the things you consume, the way you consume, the choices you make at the ballot box, you really don't see how those decisions impact the greater community. Believe me, if I knew how to fill in that gap, if I knew how to bring these people together, I would do it. Yes, love your family. Yes, love your friends. Can you also love the people you don't know? Is that possible? Can you have empathy? And can you live your life in such a way that helps people you don't know? Can you sacrifice anything in your life if it would benefit others? That's the choice we're making right now. The inconvenience, the fear, the uncertainty about money, about the basics of life, paying your rent, buying your next meal. We're doing this for each other. I'm wearing my mask every time I go out, not to protect myself, it's to protect you. The me versus others thing is the greatest divide that we have to solve. And we are in a moment here. I'm going to throw all my cynicism to the wind. I'm going to open up my heart and say this is the time to learn that lesson. There's no us and them. There's no me and others. We have to have that attitude to get through this. And then if we can keep that mindset in years and decades to come, we're going to be a much, much better place. So that's my hope. That's my dream. I hope on this day you are well. This has been the Daily Log for Wednesday, April 22nd. I'm Charles Broussel.